Right, what's happening, team? So today I'm gonna go through a topic that I've been asked about a lot, especially with some of the newcomers on the team. A few of you are asking. So we're gonna be talking about cardio versus resistance training. Now, big thing within the program that you will do is that no matter what your goals are, whether it's weight loss, whether it's weight gain, whether it's trying to get stronger, whether it's trying to run a faster 5K PB, I always include a mix of both cardiovascular and resistance training. And there's a reason for that, there's a purpose for that. And one of the biggest questions I've been getting asked over the past few weeks or so is why? Why do you do cardio with your resistance training? Why do you pair your resistance training with your cardio? And that's what we're going to go through today. So, just a little bit of a preface. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Give me 2 seconds. So, yeah, just a bit of a preface. So, there is a lot of misconceptions surrounding cardio and weight training. Which one's better? Which one's worse? Which one helps more for weight loss, etc., etc. And the truth is, neither are going to help you gain or lose weight by themselves. I mean, if you're just doing weight training along with keeping your nutrition right, yeah, that is going to help you gain weight. But just with them by themselves, you're not really going to see much progression either. Okay, so in this, we're going to review the benefits to both of them, cardio and weight training or resistance training, as well as how they can both help you with your weight loss, but then also your weight gain and journey as well. So let's get into it. So weight loss and gain versus weight loss and weight gain and calories. So the only, and I've cracked on about this loads, the only factor that determines whether you're going to gain weight or whether you're going to lose weight is calories in versus calories out. And again, I've repeated this loads and loads, but I want you thinking of calories less in a food context, but more of an energy context. So the word calorie literally translates to energy, right? So think of calories as energy. The more that you do physically, right, the more that you're doing throughout your day, moving around, the more energy you're going to burn off. And if you don't burn off the energy, okay, it gets stored in the body for future use. So if we're imagining, if you're in a calorie surplus, so let's say your maintenance calorie levels 2,500 calories. If you eat more than that, so if you eat in 2,600, 2,700, then them extra bits of energy, them extra calories, units of energy, they're going to be stored as body fat. Okay. In extreme cases, it can be visceral fat, which is fat that is internally stored within your organs. And this is where we start coming into situations like heart disease, heart attacks. And the biggest killer in the UK today is from heart attacks and heart disease. And this is from the accumulation of visceral fat gets surrounded around the heart. All right. So let's move on. The heavier you are and the more active you are, the more calories your body needs to sustain its weight. Like I said before, this is called your total daily energy expenditure. And if we take person A's example, 2,500 calories, if he eats 2,800, he's in energy surplus, which means he's going to continue to gain weight if he continues. If he's eating 2,200 calories, he's then in an energy deficit, which means he's going to lose weight if he continues. And that's the only factor that goes into gaining and losing weight. I do need to say there's a little bit of a caveat to this. There are some people out there, let's say with thyroid conditions, okay, where they'll have an overactive or underactive thyroid, and that sort of plays a good part into whether they're going to gain more weight or lose more weight. But even then, it is still down to calories in, calories out. The only thing that's going to affect them, right, is how many calories, okay? So let's get into the first little section, right? So cardiovascular training. So cardio should never be neglected in any training program and should always have some place in some form. Some people prefer long form cardio. You see loads of marathon runners out there going for an hour to 2 hours worth of running. Some people prefer short form cardio, where it's a bit more higher intensity. Okay, so stuff like hits, circuits, classes, etc. Ideally, you want to incorporate both into your routine. You've got different energy systems in your body. You've got your aerobic energy system. You've got your anaerobic energy system. And aerobic is your slow form energy system. So it comes into play when you go past the 20-minute mark of running, cycling, rowing. And then your anaerobic is your high intensity form that comes into play when you, like I said, do a short intense bursts of exercise. Cardio itself helps improve your VO2 max, which is your lung capacity, and that's just going to benefit you in your day-to-day life. Okay, the more lung capacity you have, the less tired you're going to get doing just day-to-day tasks. It also helps include your cardiovascular. Cardiovascular just meaning heart health. All right, like we talked about before, biggest killer in the UK, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and to avoid that, okay, it's probably or it is a good idea to start doing some cardio. All right, big deal. Too many people these days neglect the cardio, especially people who want to, I guess, their goal is gaining weight and putting on size, but that just puts them at a massive disadvantage. And personally, my weekly recommendations, and for everyone on the team, they do this in some sort of form. 3 sessions of long form or short form cardio sessions minimum. And this is just my opinion. I know people have different opinions and people do different things. But for me, my team, for you guys, I would say this is probably the minimum I would do for you. If you have weight training specific goals, right, what I would then do is lower the intensity of your cardio, but do not stop, right? Like, again, if we're improving our VO2 max, if we're improving our cardiovascular health, that can never have it can never not benefit you, all right? So again, if you've got them weight training goals, if you want to get PBs and lifts, keep doing cardio, just maybe don't do it as intense, okay? As soon as the intensity starts to go up, okay, that means your body's going to be taking on more stress. And if you accumulate that stress with the stress of heavy weight lifting, right, your weekly stress is just going to be too much and you're going to end up getting ill, you're going to end up getting injured, and it's just not a good time. So what I would do is instead of doing really high form HIIT cardio, I would then start to focus on long form steady state cardio, or zone 2 work, as the cool kids like to call it. Cardio can also help in weight loss, if you need to shed a few extra calories. Both long form and short form cardio will help. So again, if you're on that weight loss journey, if you just want to shed a few extra kilos, a few extra pounds, and maybe doing 10, 20 minutes of cardio after a weight training session might be ideal. Okay. Long form cardio, so something that's over 20 minutes at a slow and steady rate, is optimal for fat loss. Fat actually gets burnt as an energy source after 20 minutes of steady state cardio. So that's an interesting fact for you to know. Moving on to resistance training, so the big one. So again, resistance training should be a staple in any training program. And this goes for people who want to hit them 5K PBs, want to hit them marathon PBs. Doesn't matter what your goals are, it should be a staple. There are loads of different ways to train resistance. Each has its own benefits. You can train for size, you can train for strength, you can train for endurance, whatever you want, okay? It's really important for things like bone density and the delay of onset arthritis. So as you get older, naturally, your bones start to deteriorate, okay? And if you're not doing any kind of resistance training, any kind of weight training, this is really going to seriously affect you more than those that do it, okay? And it also helps with mobility. So mobility just means strength within all ranges of motion. If we look at people like bodybuilders, right, not necessarily powerlifters, more bodybuilders, if you see them guys when they go on stage, they're some of the most mobile, some of the most flexible people that you're ever going to see, right? I would sometimes put it down to people who bodybuild and go on stage are sometimes more flexible than some people that you see doing yoga. And that's because when they're doing this strength training, they're taking their muscles through the full range of motion. If we take a bicep curl, for example, okay, they're fully extending their arm to stretch out their bicep as much as they can, and then they're curling in to make it as short as possible. You're making the muscle strong in both the lengthened position and the shortened position. Okay, and to be strong within all ranges is actually better than to just be flexible. There's loads of incidences you see of people who do yoga who aren't necessarily strong in the positions that they're in. They can just get there and they can end up getting injured and end up getting hurt. And it all comes down to mobility, right? And it's also good for weight loss, right? The more muscle you have, okay, the more mass you have, which means the more calories you actually burn per day. Think of your muscle like fuel to an engine. Okay, the more fuel that you can put into the engine, the more you can do, the more you can output. So having more muscle in your body isn't necessarily bad for weight loss. People think weight training is counterproductive to losing weight, and they think that's also counterproductive to any endurance goals like running, like cycling. And the truth is, weight training is fantastic for both of them. Let's take example one. Okay, so we've got running and cycling. We spoke a bit about this before, literally just before. The more muscle you have, the more force that your body can produce and the faster you can go. Let's take our legs, for example, right? Most important limbs for running or cycling, all right? The more force I'm able to produce out of my legs, naturally, the faster I'm able to go. And that's all that running is, okay? Running is how fast you can switch your legs, and it's also how much force you can produce through them as well. So again, the more muscle you have, the more force you're able to produce, the faster you're able to go. All right. There's no endurance athlete out there, okay? It's the good ones, anyways, that do not have some sort of strength and conditioning routine. That's what separates the good ones from the bad ones. Again, if you look at footballers, okay, footballers who are at the top of their game usually outsource for a good strength and conditioning coach. The strength and conditioning coaches that you find within football, right? I don't know if anyone's seen the Barcelona strength and conditioning team at the minute. It's awful, and that's because they don't want their athletes getting injured, which is understandable. But if you look at someone like, I think it was Ronaldo, he actually outsources for his strength and conditioning, and that's why he's probably at the top of his game. So again, the more muscle you have, the more force you're able to produce, the faster you're able to go. This goes for endurance as well. Okay, if you do some sort of endurance strength training, okay, so you train your muscle to be able to go for a long time. Let's just picture for cycling. If that muscle is able to go for a long time underweight, just think what it'll be like when you're cycling. Example two, weight loss. So again, the more muscle you have, the more energy you burn, the more fat you lose. Simple, right? Also, the better shape you require. Okay, if you've got more muscle mass on you, everyone's chasing that toned look, right? The more muscle mass you have on you and the more fat you start to lose, the better of a toned look you're going to have by the end of it, because that muscle's bigger and it's going to be able to show more. So when people ask to tone up, right, what I'll do is not just get them to lose fat, I'll get them to start stacking on the muscles, start lifting the weights, and by the end of it, they're looking really good. Okay? So just to summarize, if you're new to training and you want to get in the best shape possible, both from a health standpoint, and from an aesthetic perspective, you're best off doing a mix of both resistance and cardiovascular training. The two combined will give you amazing health benefits, like we talked before: healthy heart, increased VO2 max, stronger frame, denser bones, and a very good physique if you do it right. As your training progresses, so again, most people when they first start training, they want two things: weight gain, muscle gain, or weight loss. After they've completed them goals, they're more likely to shift their focus onto more specific goals. Stuff like strength training, so wanting to lift as heavy as possible. Stuff like the aforementioned trying to run 5K PBs, trying to get some endurance goal, and that's great. However, no matter what the target is, you cannot, or you best not, neglect one form of training completely, because it could mean that you don't progress as much. So that's everything for today. Quite a short video, right? But loads of information to take away from that. If you do want some more sources, some books to read, some videos to watch, just give me a message and I'll send them over, right? But apart from that, I'll see you all later. Sure.